welcome back to my channel. My name's Sam, and on this channel I talk about mental health and creativity. I've spoke a lot about my experience with maladaptive daydreaming, which is something I've suffered with for about 30 years. I spoke a lot about my experience of now getting treated for that and really doing a lot better in this space. But one thing that's been quite interesting is that a lot of people in the comments have talked about how they're not in an area where therapy is easily accessible for them, or they're just not in that place where getting therapy is helpful. So my most successful video just now has been one where I've, given tips to try and stop maladaptive daydreaming, and I wanted to go a little bit further and create a workbook for people who are not in that space yet to be able to get professional help, so they just have something that they can work through. So hopefully if this is you and you're in that position, or if you are getting help, whatever your situation is, I hope this workbook will be helpful for you, just to kind of organise your thoughts around your daydreaming. And it incorporates a lot of things that I've been speaking about in terms of how you can get help. So this is a free workbook. It's basically on Google Docs. I'll just show it now, and you just follow the link and you can complete the workbook there. I wanted something that was just completely accessible to people who maybe don't have access to other things, or they're not in a position where you want to spend money, you're not in a position where you even want to be using a printer. If you don't have a print, sometimes I can't be able to print anything now. A lot of times I've never had printers, so I just wanted a super easy, super accessible way for people to kind of organise their thoughts around maladaptive daydreaming. But once you have this link, and once you have the questions, then you can do whatever you want. I think, you could put it onto a PDF and print it, or you can just print it out. So I was just going to talk through the questions that I've put and why I've put them there, and kind of guide you towards how I would expect that they can be filled out. So yeah, I just hope this is helpful. So the first question I asked is write below how you feel about your daydreaming. So a lot of people have really mixed feelings about their daydreaming. They know it's all consuming, it's time consuming, it's time wasting, but a part of you still enjoys it, and it's so much a part of you that you almost can't imagine living without it. You feel like it's so ingrained in yourself. So there is some positivity there and there is some negativity. So I kind of think it's most important that you write down how you're feeling. I suspect, if you start Googling about maladaptive daydreaming and things, you are in a position where you do see it as a very negative thing, and you want to get help, and you want to stop it somehow, or you want to control it at least. So yeah, I think there are a lot of mixed feelings around this, so I thought this is the most important question to answer, really. Number 2 is, what do you think are the main themes of your daydreams and why? So I think a lot of us understand that our daydreams are filling a need for us that's not been met. They are kind of unprocessed desires, or things that we feel we can't access in real life. Maybe there's certain emotions that you get to play out in your daydreams that you would never have in real life, or there's certain relationships that need filled for you that are not being met in real life. So yeah, I would just kind of write down the themes and why you think those themes exist for you. Number 3, do you recognise any triggers you could stop engaging with? So this is getting on to the idea of trying to stop it and recognising, what would you need to disengage from in order to try and stop the daydreaming. So for a long time, I was trying to stop daydreaming while still quite intensely indulging in triggers. I was somehow expecting that I could just shut off the daydreaming, even though I was sort of constantly being fed storylines and being fed things by what I was reading and what I was engaging in. And if you're the same, then there might be areas where you can cut things out, or it's really difficult. And it is really difficult when you're obsessed or fixated on something, and you're fixated and then that feeds your daydreams. It's difficult to actually even separate out those things. It actually, when I was trying to stop daydreaming, it never even would have occurred to me to stop. I mean, it would have occurred to me, but I would have imagined that would have been impossible to stop. So these things are really interlinked, and if you can identify, what you're doing outside of the daydreams that's feeding the daydreams and try to control that, then that might have an impact in your daydreaming. Number 4, if music is a trigger, it's good to avoid music you'll daydream to. A lot of us, daydreaming is really facilitated by music. Like, music is a big one for us, and it's usually a big trigger, and we know what music helps us to daydream, and we access it willingly, knowing that. And that's part of, what causes mixed feelings in a sense, because, it can be enjoyable for a short period and then it becomes, something we can't control. But yeah, listening to a particular type of music is something that we can control. So I've written research music with engaging lyrics that make it difficult to daydream, or some peaceful music with no lyrics. So, for me, I found that I gave the example of Taylor Swift. If you can find somebody who has engaging lyrics, then it's actually very difficult to daydream over that, because they tell such vivid stories. And I just saw in the comments somebody pointed out that they now listen to like meditative music, or relaxing music that makes it difficult for them to daydream to. So I kind of put that in as well, like maybe peaceful music with no lyrics might be a good shout. So it's just to actually like not cut music out of your life, but can you change the music that you listen to in order to, cut down the daydreaming or stop the daydreaming. So number 5, podcast, Audible, or an app like Blinkist could be a good way to try to engage your mind to avoid music. So this was really like quite a bridge for me, and when I was kind of recovering, I'm on medication, and I was I was looking for all these ways that I could recover and change my habits. So for me, I downloaded Blinkist, and it does summaries of non-fiction books. I was trying to like enrich my brain. I was trying to give myself new thoughts, because I'd obviously like lost the main thing that would fill my brain. So I was trying to cut out music. I was also trying to, engage my brain a little bit more. I was trying to fill that space that was made up of daydreaming. So this is a good place where you can do some research on what podcasts would be good for you, and I don't know, like save those to your library or whatever you need to do. And then following on from this, number 6, daydreaming can take up so much space in our brains, so it's hard to think about anything else. Write down below what topics you would like to learn or think about, and spend some time researching. So I really felt so bad about myself, because I came to realise, my brain is just so filled with my daydreams. It's so filled with the fixation I have at that time. And I was thinking, I have like no quality thoughts. Like, I don't even know, what do normal people think about? Like, what do smart people think about? Like, what, I just felt like so stupid, and just so, that's like over time, I didn't realise how much it was really eroding my confidence, that my brain was just so full of these daydreams and so full of these scenarios over and over and over, and I just felt I had like no quality thoughts, and I almost like didn't know how to think anymore, or really like what interested me. So I would just like imagine a world in which you're not daydreaming all the time. What could you be interested in? What would you want to take an interest in? What would you want to learn? If you could imagine like a smart, healthy person, like what do you think they would be engaging their brain in? So just kind of write down below like what kind of things, you can imagine yourself as somebody who you want to be. And I know it's going to take a long time, or it's going to be difficult to get there, but you want to try and think about like what is it that you would like to be spending your time thinking about. And following on from this, so number 7, for us, like real life's not as exciting or as comforting as our daydreams. So instead of daydreaming to replace experience we can't have, or emotions we can't access, we should try to become more comfortable with what we do have. So can you describe a positive version of yourself that you could imagine finding peace with? So a lot of the times, like my daydreams would kind of involve relationships, or just being like more secure with certain scenarios, and like being a more confident person, and being out there, and being in a relationship and having all these emotions and having all these experiences that I couldn't access in real life. And I kind of thought, when I was cured from maladaptive daydreaming, I could have those things. But, I've started to understand, I've lost so much time in life, and I feel very sort of stunted in that area from when this all started when I was a teenager, that the solution for me isn't going to be able to be to access all those things I would like to have accessed that my daydreams was replacing. I need to build something new and be okay with that. So, for me, it's about kind of settling into my creative self, and I've got a video on this talking about creative singles, and it's all right, actually, that I am single and that I am creative, and I just want to, build, comfort and confidence in my own self, not the self that I would have imagined in daydreams, or that I accessing the emotions that I had wanted to access through my daydreams. So number 8, we want to romanticize our real life and make our daydreaming less attractive. So anything you can think of that would put you off your current daydream fixation. So a lot of us do daydream around a particular fixation or a particular obsession, and we put these things on a pedestal and they become, super important to our internal world. I have found that the 2 times that I have been able to stop daydreaming for a good while, or that's brought attention to the fact of how much I'm daydreaming and how negative the daydreaming is because negative things happened around that real person, or that kind of area in which I was daydreaming, and I just sort of felt I don't even want to spend my time thinking about that. But because I couldn't stop, that's when I recognised, well, there's a major problem here, because it's I don't want to be thinking about that anymore. You're not caught up in the excitement of it, or the love for it. You literally know, that is making me ill now. So yeah, is there anything, can you flip what it is you're daydreaming about into something negative, or search for a negative angle that can put you off that, and then once you're off one fixation, that's a good time in which you can try to get into building something more positive. Number 9, sleep is one of the most difficult things for people with maladaptive daydream. It's a negative loop. We can't sleep because of our MD, and then our body functioning without sleep the next day makes it worse. And I want you here to write down your honest sleeping routine below, starting from what you're doing from 7 p.m. onwards. So I would never have thought about all this stuff, and I was so unhealthy. I've made a specific video on maladaptive daydreaming and sleep. I was so unhealthy in this sense that I was on Twitter until 11 o'clock at night. I was still scrolling Twitter in my bed. I had my laptop in my bed. I had YouTube. I was making all these media decisions. I was scrolling. If you do all this, it's quite obvious that you can't sleep, and your daydreams become mixed up in all this. Your mind is so alert, and you're anxious, and the daydreaming just gets worse, and it gets really bad at night because you are tired. So it's you can't sleep because you're daydreaming, but then your daydreaming gets worse because you haven't slept. So it's just this vicious cycle. So I've come to realize through getting treated that sleep is so important, and just getting a really good sleep and learning how to just go to bed and go to sleep and not give yourself other choices. So I don't have my laptop in my bedroom anymore. I listen to the same audiobook all the time. I just don't give myself choices, and I'm just lights off, and I don't have any technology now. So yeah, that's an example of creating a healthier sleep routine. So I've written here, if you could think up a healthier sleep routine, and just some few suggestions about what that would be like. Number 11, MD is exacerbated by anxiety, which can be made worse by what we eat or drink. So I think a lot of these little things, they're so... I would, to be honest, before I started getting treated for this, and before, I really was seeing results, I would never have thought about these things sleep and eating and drinking and the impact they would have been having on my daydreams. And probably you're not thinking about this because your daydreams are just so all-consuming. You don't see the connections with little things. You don't really see when they spike and when they're not. You're not interested. Like, I wasn't interested. I would never have listened to somebody who told me to like sleep and watch what I eat and drink. I would be like, you don't understand. But I think like through getting treated and through being on medication, I can now see kind of more clearly like where I spike and like where I feel that pull to maladaptive daydreaming again. And that's really like a lack of sleep. And a lot of times, like, you know, if I have like really a lot of like sugary fizzy drinks, if I've had alcohol, like everything that prevents the medication from working then makes the maladaptive daydreaming worse. So I really think, you know, actually just trying to invest in having a healthier body and like healthier eating and drinking, healthier sleeping, everything will help a little bit. So yeah, I would just kind of recommend thinking about that. Worst thing, I think, number 12, the worst thing about maladaptive daydreaming is the isolation. Like, I think that is the absolute worst thing. There's like nobody to talk to. It's a difficult problem to talk about. It's difficult to explain. Like, if people hear that you are suffering because you're daydreaming, like no one normal is going to understand that. So I think that's where it's important, and like where, you know, I started to find comfort is when I was online and I'd read other people's comments and find things that I related to and actually be like, oh right, they even sound like maybe they're in a worse situation. I would just kind of write down anything where you can see, you know, other people are in this situation, because maladaptive daydreaming, if you've not been aware of it for a long time and aware of it as a phenomenon or as a condition, it feels very, very personal, and it feels like you are the only one. Like, for probably 25 years, I thought this was just me, and I thought I was the only one. Never could I have imagined that there were other people who were like struggling with what I was struggling with. Like, I felt so stupid, I felt so childish. Like, I just felt like this is me. It wouldn't have even it didn't occur to me for a long, long time to like look this up on the internet. Obviously, like, I started doing this really before the internet was a thing. Not was a thing, but before you would really research symptoms on the internet. So I could just like never have imagined that there were other people. But now, you know, there are other people, and there are forums, and there are YouTube videos like this one where people can comment and you can see that you're not alone. So, you know, if you're watching this, please leave a comment and show people that they are not alone in this. Number 13. So, and this follows on from that. So bringing maladaptive daydreaming out from the dark and into the light could be the best thing you do. Is there anyone in your life that you could talk to? So it's very, very difficult to speak to somebody. It's very difficult to broach this subject. But, you know, once it actually is out in the light, it feels so much better. It just, like, I've now told people in my life, and it just almost feels like it's not as big a thing anymore, because, well, I don't want to minimize this. It will still feel like a big thing, and I'm doing better really because I'm being treated. But once it's something you can actually talk about, it lessens, I think it lessens the shame if, you know, somebody can understand you, and especially if you point them now to all the information that's out there about maladaptive daydreaming, and that you really deep down understand that, like, this isn't you and it's not your fault, and it is a condition that other people struggle with, and like you might have an underlying mental illness, to be honest. Like, I was diagnosed with OCD, which I didn't know about, and you know, I just couldn't have saved myself, even though I felt stupid that I couldn't. So really don't be hard on yourself, and you want to find out everything that you can about yourself, and this is where it is really important to get professional help. But like, a first step can be just telling somebody in your life. So I've written here, like, just think about who is in your life, and is there anybody you could tell, and you know, what would you imagine their reactions might be, and you know, how could you broach the subject with them. If there is like anything you can think of to help you do that, then that could be really beneficial. Number 14, write down what happens when you stop daydreaming. Are you bored, lonely, depressed? By identifying what happens when you stop, it will help you to understand how serious the problem is. So if you just stop maladaptive daydreaming, or you're trying to stop and you just find yourself bored, you might be in a better position to try and combat your maladaptive daydreaming and try and replace it with something else. And there is a lot of people who have managed to do this, but you need to be aware of what happens specifically to you when you stop, and not compare yourself with other people, because it seems like people maladaptive daydream for a wide variety of different reasons, like, you know, because of trauma, because of depression, because of boredom, because of loneliness, because of OCD, because of ADHD. You want to really get to the bottom of what it is for you. And when you see other people have been able to stop maladaptive daydreaming for a particular reason, it doesn't matter, because you might not be able to stop it for that reason. So, you know, for a while I was reading things like, oh, I just managed to stop this by, you know, getting a new hobby and focusing on something else. And I was like, all right, I'm like such an idiot. Like, when I stop this, I become super depressed and I can't do anything. And that was, you know, really part of the OCD cycle for me. So, you know, if you're in the same situation and it feels dangerous to stop, then don't stop and get help. You know, you need to be honest with yourself about how bad this problem is. And that kind of falls onto number 15. And I know I made this workbook for people who are not quite ready to get professional help, but what I wanted to note here was, you know, if you are extremely depressed when you stop maladaptive daydreaming, at some point you probably will need professional help if you really do want to stop. And I just wanted you to note down here, like, even if you're not in that position to be getting help, even if you're not ready, like, please, you know, look around the internet and have a think about, you know, who you could approach and who you could talk to and what help is out there if you needed it. Just so that this list is here, like, when you are ready and that you don't feel hopeless. You know, if you have like 5 things down here, like 5 avenues to get help, then, you know, even though you know, like, you're not ready at that moment, it just means that you can see that there's help available. There's actually like 5 avenues. So even if one doesn't work, another one might work. And if that other one doesn't work, you've got another thing listed there. Like, I spent a long time, you know, just, you know, discovering one thing that I thought could help and then becoming completely devastated because it didn't. Like, when I first looked up the term like maladaptive daydreaming and therapy, literally only one therapist came up. So I put all my eggs in this basket. I was worrying about, like, I need to email this woman, and I was worrying about that, and I was just focused on this one woman who did maladaptive daydreaming therapy, who I wouldn't need to explain the condition to, and that I was holding on all my hope to that. And then I email and she's like, oh, I'm busy. Like, good luck. So, you know, and I was absolutely devastated. And I was like, okay, like, I can't get help for this. I don't know what I'm going to do now. But, you know, if I had written a list and I was aware of different places where I could look for help, and, you know, I really did think about, you know, different avenues and wrote things down, then I think I would have been feeling better about that situation. So, yeah, I think that's the most important thing. So, anyway, again, this is just a free link. Please do just follow the link below, and I think it asks you to make a copy and then go on, and then you can kind of do what you want with this. I've written like replace text here just so you can start writing there. I really hope this is helpful, and I just want to make something completely accessible, so it's not fancy. Just go on, and the questions are there for you to fill out if you want to work through this. And please do leave a comment and let me know if this has been helpful at all, or if there's anything else that I can do to help. Please do like and subscribe if you can. I would really appreciate that. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.